Don't freak out. There's still room for positivity. Okay? Having said that, what we witnessed over the weekend was the Arizona Cardinals backing up into a playoff spot. Beep, beep, beep.
You are Locked On Cardinals, your daily Arizona Cardinals podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
All right. Alex, Clancy, Bo Brack, Locked On Cardinals. Let me get my microphone here. Follow him at Bo Brack. Follow me at Clancy's Corner. Follow the podcast at Locked On AZ Cards. It's been a tumultuous handful of days here. Hope everybody enjoyed their Christmas, their family, didn't drink too much. I ate all the candy, I think, in San Diego yesterday because Christmas, you know? And what we were all focused on this weekend was the Arizona Cardinals and their lack against the Indianapolis Colts for all the world to see, putting into question what the hell we're doing here and what the Cardinals are made of. The Cardinals have been called many bad names. The Cardinals have had many fingers pointed at them, front office, head coach, players, etc. We're going to kind of subside from the noise today and just do a little bit of a bigger picture podcast. We'll have plenty of time ahead of their matchup on Sunday against the Cowboys. Bo, let's take stock here. The Cardinals have officially clinched. I tweeted out that Sean McVay had to clinch a playoff spot for the Cardinals because they couldn't do it themselves, with the Rams beating the Minnesota Vikings in ugly-ass Matthew Stafford Detroit Lions fashion. They still clinched a playoff spot, as did the Cardinals, but the Cardinals take a one-game back seat in the NFC West. That's where we are. If the playoffs started today, the Arizona Cardinals would be traveling to face a familiar face in Bruce Arians and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Owen Wilson, scariest environment imaginable from Armageddon. That would be the scary, in my opinion. But as I mentioned in the cold open, there is so much room for positive growth still, not only between the ears of the players, front office members, and fans alike of the Arizona Cardinals, but also their playoff positioning, Bo. So as of right now, taking a day, relaxing after we went at each other's throats about who's the Cardinals game on our live podcast. Where are you sitting right now? And how comfortable, if at all, are you with the Cardinals in the playoffs once they get there?
Skeptical, right? Very, very skeptical about their ability to go on the road potentially and win a football game and not be one and done in the playoffs. And I say this because I look at just recent history. When you look at last postseason and you teams that won at least one playoff game, at the end of the year, they were trending in the right direction. Maybe the only team that wasn't maybe shuffling a little bit was the Cleveland Browns. They were kind of trading wins and losses going into the postseason. They were 11-5 squad. They were faced with COVID-19 restrictions. They didn't have their head coach. They didn't have a couple key players. And they go and they blow the doors off the Pittsburgh Steelers, who were the only team that was struggling more than the Cleveland Browns at that point. Remember that that's Pittsburgh Steelers team? It was the last undefeated team in the NFL. It struggled down the stretch of the season. Does this sound familiar? I think where people are very skeptical about this Arizona Cardinals team is because they've seen this play out. They feel like they've seen this before. Now, there are the exceptions to these rules, right? There are the teams that have struggled at the end of the season and they've figured it out in the postseason and gone on these magical runs, but it doesn't happen that often. The Arizona Cardinals, in their franchise, they have an example of that. One of the worst postseason teams ever. Kurt Warner, Larry Fitzgerald, Anquan Bolden, Darnell Dockett, Carlos Dansby. We remember that squad. It pretty much was the arrival of football in the Valley of the Sun. But, do people expect that to happen? Sure. The people that take the Kool-Aid and they put it into their veins, and that's how they drink the team Kool-Aid, that's them. But as far as the people who watch football on a regular basis, that if you have no momentum, if you have nothing going your way, the chances of you going on the road and winning a playoff game, they're very slim. Like it's hard to win in the NFL in the regular season. It's really hard to win in the postseason. You don't just show up and accidentally win a football game. That doesn't happen. So that's why, I think people are not too confident in this organization, especially the way that they're kind of posturing for the end of the season. They've got to right this ship, and it's got to start as early as this week against a very dangerous Dallas Cowboys team that just put up, a stupid amount of points against a Washington football team on Sunday Night Football.
Locked On Cardinals, part of your Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen every day, free and available on all platforms. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're inching closer to 2,000 subs. Really appreciate it. Twitter's been ablaze. Thank you to everybody who's been reaching out, commenting, liking, whatever. We want this to be as tight-knit a group and followers as possible, and we love to do everything we can to make that so. What the Cowboys did on Monday night is what the Cardinals should have done against Detroit. I mean, that's what you expected. Maybe not a 56 burger, maybe not a couple special teams touchdowns, DeMarcus Lawrence, and I think a blocked punt, right?
Yeah.
For a touchdown. But you wanted the stars that were playing, that were healthy, to show out, and they didn't. Ezekiel Elliott, Amari Cooper showed out. Dak Prescott looked excellent last night, showed out. It's daunting to see where the Cardinals need to get to prove to people that they could do that to a team again, what Dallas did to Washington. Because what the Cardinals did for the first 7 weeks was that. Sure, the Minnesota game was close, and not every game was the Tennessee or Cleveland game, but they did it to the Rams at SoFi. We've seen it with this team. And yes, DeAndre Hopkins is out. Okay, JJ Watt is out, and James Conner was out on Saturday. Everybody's hurt in the NFL through 16 weeks. Everybody is. And the questions are coming into play. Was it Steve Keim? Is it Cliff Kingsbury? Is it Kyler Murray really just plateauing in his third year? We don't know. But that's not what this podcast is about. Coming up next, there's going to be positivity for about 8 minutes, smack dab in the middle of this damn podcast, where the Cardinals can move in a positive direction and how they can still salvage their beat back in their asses into the playoffs instead of going and clinching a playoff spot on their own. Alex, Clancy, Bo Brack, Locked On Cardinals. We'll be back in a minute. Second segment, Locked On Cardinals. Follow him at Bo Brack. Follow me at Clancy's Corner. Hope everybody had a fantastic Christmas. For those that don't celebrate Christmas, I hope you enjoyed a nice day off, hopefully, on Friday from work. This is the time of year where you never know what day it is, what time it is, what your name is. This is one of the best parts of the year. It's just extra weird because you have a full day of work. You have a full week of work because the New Year's isn't until Saturday. But thank you for hanging out with us. Thank you to everybody who watched the post-game show on Christmas night. Hopefully, unfortunately, it wasn't a positive one, and you saw two brothers yelling at each other pretty much in front of the rest of the family. But I think the thing with Cliff Kingsbury is and Bo said this right. I think it was on that podcast, if not our full one after, was that we're 50-50, baby. Like it is such a polarizing conversation because the Cliff truthers are starting to be like, maybe I'm wrong. And then the Fire Cliff crew is maybe softening because of Kyler Murray hasn't really gotten there. We saw the big run in the first half, and then it was just kind of meh, and then you can pivot towards Steve Keim. There's a lot of name blaming that can go on, and we don't really know who's truly at fault. It probably is everybody, but there's still some positivity looming. The Cardinals have 2 games left. They're 1 game out of the NFC West, a lead. Okay. The Cardinals have Dallas on Sunday and then Seattle at home in week 18. The Rams have the Ravens on the road. You would assume Lamar Jackson will be back at this point. And then they have the 49ers at home at SoFi in week 18. And I'm assuming that those 2 games, those 2 NFC West games, will be played simultaneously in the afternoon slot, especially if the division crown's on the line. Now, if the Cardinals can win in Dallas on Sunday and the Rams lose, the Cardinals are leading the division again. And not only are the Cardinals leading the division again, but they're no longer going to be the 4 seed. They'll probably bump up to the 3 seed because Dallas will fall from where they are into a lower level because of the tiebreaker the Cardinals have against them. And this all could change in the blink of an eye on Sunday. All of it. Everything changes in the blink of an eye if the Rams lose and the Cardinals win. And it's not saying, well, the Rams have to lose to Detroit at home and the Cardinals are playing, the Chiefs. It's not that.
Right.
So it's just, this is grasping onto strings at this point when we once thought the Cardinals were going to walk their way into the playoffs on their own accord. But there's still a little bit of a safety net to pivot this to positivity town in one game.
Sure. I mean, massive opportunity. Massive opportunity. It's up to the Arizona Cardinals what they want to do. I mean, they could take on this playoff team in the Dallas Cowboys. Kyler Murray can return to the state. Has he lost a game in Texas yet? I still don't know. I mean, I know he's the greatest high school quarterback of all time. What do you go, 43-0? Three state championships for Kyler Murray. Just absurd numbers. We know what happened last time they took on the Dallas Cowboys. What was it, a Monday Night Football game? They went 38-10. They turned Andy Dalton over several times. But we know the Arizona Cardinals aren't playing their best football. They're playing far from it. And there's a couple reasons you can find optimism with it not having to like shoehorn it in. Like, hey, let's just just take a giant leap of faith with really no reason. And it's an irrational move for fans to do so. But especially after the performance from the Cowboys and the Cardinals the last couple weeks, the Cardinals are 5.5-point road dogs right now. 5.5 points against the Cowboys. And Rodney Hudson's back in the lineup. And when Rodney Hudson and Kyler Murray have been in the same lineup, which is, happened a bunch of times this year, and it's only happened once where they've lost a football game. That's it. It's pretty absurd. They had the loss to Carolina. I'm sorry, and then they also lost the game against they've lost twice. They lost against the Los Angeles Rams. That was the last time we saw Rodney Hudson. So 2 of their 3 losses have come when it's Kyler Murray and Rodney Hudson. That's the group that you want. You know that this offensive line plays at a different level when it's got its backbone back in there, as far as Rodney Hudson, who's been on the shelf because he was COVID positive for the past 2 weeks. You also got to think that with that, sure, it's not good when you have a positive test, but at the same token, he was nursing that rib injury from a couple weeks ago. He gets a little healthier. He gets back in the lineup. He's fresh. He's ready to go. I like that for the Arizona Cardinals going against this defensive front from the Dallas Cowboys. So there's that opportunity for them to do this. It's going to come down to just making plays, though. Looking at this game and saying Christian Kirk's going to be like, okay, I can make up for having a big drop and kind of not having my best game against their last opponent in the the last couple of weeks. And he had a big game in Detroit, but a lot of that was in garbage time. But I think against the Colts, he probably wanted to have a better performance. AJ Green kind of had only one big play in that game. All these receivers, all these playmakers that needed to step up did not. This is their chance to do so. But is it insane to believe, hey, just by showing up and going out there and playing, that they're going to get it done? No, absolutely not. That's where you're kind of the skepticism jumps in. Another thing, Alex, is the ship has absolutely sailed on Kyler Murray winning the MVP. Sure, he was selected to his second Pro Bowl, but that doesn't mean that Kyler Murray, and this is absolutely where he has the ability to play like an MVP the rest of the way. He has the ability. He has the skill set. He can make all the throws. He has the ability to get out and run. He can take over a game. He needs to do that over the final 2 games of the season. It absolutely has to happen, and he has the ability to do so. I feel like he's just been kind of quiet the last couple of weeks. Here's your chance to reemerge. There's going to be a ton of eyes on this football game. And the last couple of times that's happened, you've fallen short. You lost to the Rams on Monday Night Football. You lost to the Packers on Thursday Night Football. That's all people really know about this Cardinals team. That's why people like Sosa Cremenges of Locked On Rams is calling you the Fraudnals. Here's your chance to change that narrative. You can change the narrative that you're done, you're dead in the water, you can't win another football game, and you're going to be one and done in the playoffs by winning a game on the road against a good Cowboys football team and Kyler Murray showing that he's an MVP caliber player. Is that positive enough?
Yeah, I mean, but yeah, I mean, the only downside is we've been saying this for a month,
Yeah,
and we haven't seen it. We
sure.
haven't seen it. We haven't seen, aside from that run and aside from a couple sustained drives, like the one where they scored in a blink of an eye. Just chunk play was a perfect ball down the sideline on a go route. They only throw go routes, it seems like. I mean, it's down the sideline. It's Zach Ertz, it's Christian Kirk, it's AJ Green. They're just timing routes that Kyler, when he has time in the pocket, is excellent at. Aside from that, he hasn't looked great. We saw the giddy up. There were questions about his ankle. Is it still, is he still hobbled a little bit? Didn't show that on his 50-plus yard run, where he almost got in the end zone. But yeah, I mean, you need leadership from Kyler Murray. You need Kyler Murray to play well. If Kyler Murray's not going to play well, the Cardinals aren't going to win. Doesn't matter how good of a head coach or bad of a head coach you have. Doesn't matter who's injured or not. It doesn't matter how good the defense is. If they can't, they've put up, what was it, 28 points in 2 games against 2 second team defenses. Something's wrong. The defense. What we've seen is the NFL caught up again. That's what we're witnessing right now. Defensive coordinators have caught up again to what the Cardinals do, to how to bracket Kyler Murray, and we're watching it. So we need to see, just like Kyler Murray needs to show it, Cliff Kingsbury needs to be in tow with that, having the right play calls, getting the ball out of Kyler's hands, putting the players that he coaches in the right positions to succeed, and not putting it on the players solely to make, miraculous plays to put points on the board. But
I just don't
yes,
think they're miraculous plays that are necessary. I mean, that Christian
some,
Kirk
yes, but you can't rely on them. The Christian
Right.
Kirk catch, absolutely. And I get that play, but maybe don't call a go route. Maybe don't have that as part of the play package on 3rd and 2 when you need a first down, when you take the ball after winning the toss. And I completely agree with that call, taking the ball. Because, you know what? Something's got to change. Let's go.
Yeah.
Giddy up. We're at home. It's Christmas. Let's go down and score a touchdown. So I don't know. I mean, it's just, we don't have to relive every little thing that happened against the Colts. It's just overall putting up 16 points, 3 of which were when the game was pretty much over. It's not great. You had 2 good drives. Right. One ended up in a missed field goal, and then one ended up in a touchdown. I don't know. But I mean, yes, go ahead.
No, I mean, I was only going to make the point that, I've seen the excuses for Matt Prater where he had McCoy holding for him, and he goes Dan Marino, and he goes laces out. And sure, I think that's one excuse for him, but the other hold was fine. He missed that field goal. He missed his extra point. There's 7 points right there that you don't have, but that's still not enough. We know what this offense is capable of. And that's why I think even when this offense falls short of perfection, people get upset, which I think is wrong. But this offense is capable of way more than what they've produced the last couple of weeks, and that comes down to, I see a lot of people saying, "Hey, why don't you just take the play that's underneath? Why don't you just move the chains?" Like, who are you? Like Hank Strom? You just want to matriculate the ball down the field. You want to run an offense from the NFL's 1960s. This is a big play offense. This is a modern day offense. Cliff Kingsbury, Kyler Murray said, if it's one-on-one with your receivers that you trust and they get that step, throw them the damn ball. And he's been doing it. But it's, opposed for where it was earlier in the season, those guys come up with the football. And then now they're not coming up with the catch. You look like a goat, not the good goat in those scenarios. It's just like NFL receivers just have to come up with those catches. If not, they're not going to get the paydays that Christian Kirk's expecting to get at the end of the season. So I don't know. I agree to it to an extent. Like if you see it and you watch the replay, you're watching the all-22 and you get the full look of the field and you see what Kyler Murray missed out on and moving the change, sure. But if the big play's there, like we saw it in Chicago, he goes one-on-one on 4th down to DeAndre Hopkins on 4th and short for a touchdown for 20-plus yards. I mean, I'm not going to turn my nose up on that because that's what this offense is trying to do. If you don't like that, then I guess, Kyler Murray, the caliber of quarterback he is, like playing to his strengths, it's not for you. And I don't get it.
There's one thing that's changed over the last handful of weeks. And we need to talk about it next. It seems like the head coach has just gotten bored with a specific play. And we'll talk about it next. Locked on Cardinals, betonline.ag. BetOnline.ag has you covered this holiday season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before as football continues to march through the college bowl season. and the pro football playoffs. I am stoked for the college football playoff on Friday. Are you kidding me? That's so sneaky. You forget about it, and then it's like, oh man, like so many fortunes can be changed. Like, what if Cincinnati beats Alabama? Like, it doesn't matter. But betonline.ag's got you covered. Go to the website or use your mobile device today to sign up. Receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit using promo code Locked On. From basketball, football, NHL boxing, UFC, right to your favorite casino games. Don't wait to take advantage of the amazing offers available for the 2021 season into 2022. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports. So don't wait to take advantage of all the new amazing offers available. BetOnline, where the game starts, Bo. All right, final segment. Alex, Clancy, Bo Brack, thank you to everybody who likes, subscribes, comments on our YouTube channel, watches us live, gets us anywhere you get your podcast, Spotify, Google Play, Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, etc. Thank you. Bo and I are so thankful for everything that you do to, just stay on this ride with us. We're having a hell of a time. The Cardinals stopped running the ball. And I don't know why. I tweeted out on Saturday. It seems like Cliffs he just gets bored, so he calls dumbass plays like that. That's what it like at times. And this isn't a pile on Cliff thing. Why the Cardinals were winning early. Sure, Kyler Murray, DeAndre Hopkins, etc. It was the defense and it was running the ball. It was James Conner and it was running and it was playing defense. The Cardinals have zero pass rush, as Bo got super passionate about on the post game. It's like, I mean, if you're not gonna rush the passer, no secondary in the NFL is going to be good enough to defend guys for more than 3 or 4 seconds. It's impossible. It's impossible to do. And running the ball allows you to maintain clock, maintain time of possession if you're doing it effectively. And when you have, and obviously James Conner didn't play on Saturday, but moving forward with Dallas, you want to keep Dak Prescott on the sideline as long as possible. And the run defense, the front seven for the Cowboys, may be the most improved group of any team in the NFL. Like, they are world beaters. Michael Parsons could win Defensive Player of the Year. He probably won't, but that front seven is going to be difficult to run on, but still, with Chase Edmonds and James Conner, that needs to be a focal point. That will set up the play action. That will set up the Kyler Murray RPO. That sets up the world while having the clock run with you on the field on offense. Do you see that as something that is a huge catalyst as to why they're not winning, or is it just another thing to pile on?
I mean, I think it's just winning football. You and I don't agree on a lot, and I think that there's a ton of people in the Cardinals fan base. This is something that they've been pounding the table forever. They go down any amount of points, they get away from the run. Like, it's refreshing anytime that they stick with it, and shockingly, it tends to work out for them. They get themselves in second, third, and manageable. When Chase Edmonds was running really well the other night, the offense was humming. But when they're going out there and they're like, oh, we're chasing points, or they were sitting on a 1-point lead and they come out, they go pass, 3 and out, done. What did it last? Was it less than 20 seconds as far as time of possession? Put the ball right back in the hands. Put your defense right back there on the field after making a big stop. It's insanity when you look at what the Cowboys and where their strengths are as a defense. I think that's something you can absolutely do, and it helps you when you're a struggling team. When you're slumping, when you're not making the big plays, sometimes it just helps to get back to the basics. And running the football is the most basic thing you can absolutely do to get the offensive line going, to get your offense in manageable positions, to turn that clock, to give your defense some rest. It just bodes well for every single group on the field. I won't disagree with that ever. And I think, if James Conner can come back and be healthy, and then you've got Chase Edmonds back in the lineup, you've got your two Hosses there. It's a great thing for the Arizona Cardinals. And that's something, and of course, with Rodney Hudson being activated, that just is, that's something to be positive about going into this contest.
Yeah,
but
for sure.
You got to utilize it. You got to have your head coach. You got to have your play caller be able to lean on it sometimes.
Zero excuse when you have two RB1 fringe guys in the backfield. Chase Edmonds looked excellent. I mean, he looked spry. He looked like the Chase Edmonds that we have known and loved for a while, but usually as a duo partner and not a lead back. I mean, if James Conner comes back, I don't know if they kept him out because he was really injured. If they thought that they could squeeze out another week out of him. I mean, they need him to play and they need him to touch the ball a lot. I mean, that's where, especially with DeAndre Hopkins out, regardless of DeAndre Hopkins' numbers, were great or not this year, the decoy factor is there. I mean, he's still a top 3 receiver in the NFL, and they, it keeps the defense honest, and the defense now doesn't have to be honest. They can allocate their spy elsewhere. But if you can use James Conner and Chase Edmonds touching the ball, I mean, they could touch the ball 25 times each, whether it be catching the ball to the backfield or running the ball. If that's what's going to work, that's what's going to work.
Yeah.
And I think you just ride whatever you can. Chase Edmonds looked Pro Bowl-y, on Saturday in space. He just looked, he looks like an absolute weapon. And him and Kyler Murray have not lost a step. There's just guys that and we talked about this in the post, like that's his guy. That's Kyler's guy. And he's got him back. So running the ball is going to be paramount moving forward, especially if they have to go to Green Bay. They need to be able to run the ball effectively. Run the ball, play defense, you win Super Bowls. That's what it's always been since the beginning of NFL time.
And I don't disagree. It sickens me. It sickens me that we have to agree after our fight. We're getting back. We're getting back.
It's okay. Alex, Clancy, Bo Brack, Locked On Cardinals. Marcus Mosier from Locked On Cowboys. He's awesome dude. That's gonna be really fun on Thursday. Appreciate the workaround with us posting the podcast on Sunday night instead of Monday. It was a weird game with Saturday. So if you haven't checked that out, please do. Please check out the post-game reaction. That was probably the best stuff that we had, because when Bo and I go unscripted and it's just like synthesizing what we just watched in real time, that's the good stuff. Because a lot of times we're going to be on opposite sides of the coin, and we don't do that to fabricate things. We genuinely think each other are stupid, and it's fantastic. So tomorrow we'll do a little bit more of a look ahead to Dallas. There's been a lot of faces to the Dallas Cowboys organization this year, just like the Cardinals. There's been a bunch of different teams that have hit the field. The Cowboys are getting healthier while the Cardinals are starting to wane a little bit. And even though Rodney Hudson will be back, hopefully James Conner will be back, they're not going to be at 100% full strength without their number 1 wide receiver. And with what we said, Marco Wilson, we'll see. We haven't gotten a real report with him yet, because if Robert Alford continue to be out.
Alford's out for the rest of the regular season as far as IR, even if he's designated to return. But Cliff said the other day that there's no real updates on the shoulder issue with Marco Wilson. So
we'll see. If Marco Wilson's out, it's going to be CeeDee Lamb, Amari Cooper, Dalton Schultz, Michael Gallup, Cedric Wilson. Cedric Wilson would be a wide receiver 2 on a different team, and versus Byron Murphy and a couple safeties. That's what the Cardinals are going to be facing. Yeah. So it's something we're going to look towards. We're going to talk to, again, Marcus Mosher on Thursday about it, get his takes on it, because I would guess the rest of the NFL salivating when they get to play the Cardinals. Not only is it a team that's reeling, but it's a team that they could get some notoriety out of, where they beat a team that was once a world beater during the first half of the season. I cannot believe we're having the same conversation that we were at this time last year. Alex, Clancy, Bo Brack, Locked On Cardinals. They clinch a playoff spot. They could take over the division again with a win on Sunday and a loss by the Rams in Baltimore. It's not crazy. This whole thing could flip in one game for both teams. We'll see if it happens. We'll talk about it more tomorrow. Locked On Cardinals. We'll talk to you then.